Welcome to our channel, Vedic Solutions. We are delighted that you have chosen to spend time with us, and we hope that you'll spend time watching our introductory series. We have so many resources for you. Please look at our website, purelyprabhupada.com, and there you will see, under videos, an introduction to Purely Prabhupada. The inspiration for that website came from Srimati Kamra Devi, and she is the inspiration for all of these videos as well. I hope that you will take time to listen to her explanation of the science of God consciousness and what Srila Prabhupada came to give. Also on that website, you will find a biography of Srila Prabhupada, which would be well worth your time taking a look at. In our last series, we began to introduce you to something that most of you have never heard about, unless perhaps you are from India, and that is that the Vedic culture was on this planet for millions of years, and that in the turbulence that we are experiencing now in the world, where there is so much division and intentional divisiveness, we need to have an understanding that the Supreme Lord has not left us bereft of knowledge or direction, and that direction comes from these ancient Vedic literatures. So His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, brought these literatures to the West. He spent many years translating them, sleeping very little each night, so that we would have these available. And although the organization no longer represents his teachings and has even tried to change his books in many, many ways, we do have the original books available on our website, purelyprabhupada.com. So today we're going to talk about something that's very foundational if we want to develop a society that is sustainable. We have to understand that human life is meant for self-realization. It is the highest form of life on this planet. And so for that foundation to be there, it has to be based on God consciousness. But that God consciousness is not something sectarian, because all of us are subject to similar defects. We commit mistakes. They say to err is human. We all have a cheating propensity. We're subject to illusion. We make mistakes. So with all of those defects, how are we going to understand the nature of reality and the nature of the universe? There are thousands of videos out there on YouTube, thousands of people speculating how they think things are. But is that really how things are? Or that's how people think things are? So initially, the idea of science came from knowledge, presenting knowledge. So then I would ask you, if you wanted to know who your father was, what would you do? How would you experiment to figure that out? This man looks sort of like me, and he was around at the time that I was a kid. You have to ask your mother. You have to ask your mother who is your father. And that is called descending knowledge. Knowledge that comes from above. There is so much speculation. Who are we? Where do we come from? Is there life on other planets? And on and on and on. And there are unlimited ideas that people have out there of answers to these questions. But we need to get the knowledge from the proper source. And that is these Vedic literatures. And they are foundational for us to build a proper society for this planet. And we talked about the fact that there is a golden age coming, which the Vedic literatures discuss, because they have given us time frames that go back millions of years. So we are right now in Kali Yuga, and it is a very unique Kali Yuga. There are 4 yugas or ages. Satya, the first one, pure. The lifespan was far longer than we could possibly imagine. And people were very religious. In the next stage, Treta Yuga, instead of the lifespan being 100,000 years, now it's 10,000 years. Religiosity has diminished. The next stage, Dwapara Yuga, 1,000 years lifespan. more religiosity diminished. Kali Yuga, the Iron Age, the age of hypocrisy. Almost all of the principles of purity and truthfulness and austerity and mercy practically are gone. A little bit of truthfulness is left, just a little. And that's where we are now. We're in the midst of Kali Yuga, and it is raging. And we're seeing criminal activities that we never even thought imaginable, performed by the highest leaders of this world. The Lord is systematically bringing this world to its feet, to its knees, so that we are ready to receive higher knowledge from the proper sources. And that is what Srila Prabhupada gave his life to do, to bring this knowledge to the West. We have it. Now we have to understand how to implement it, and to also have faith that this is where we need to go for our direction, and not go to those who have no idea who is God, why we are here, and what the purpose of human life is. So descending knowledge will give us so much valuable understanding of ourselves as human beings, as stewards on this planet, and how we need to live, what we need to do to purify our life in such a way that our decisions come from a purified consciousness. There is a difference in how one makes decisions. According to Bhagavad Gita, there are 3 modes of nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. So if we make decisions in the mode of goodness, how is one in the mode of goodness? It depends on the foods we eat. It depends on what we eat, not just what we eat, but what we associate with, what we look at, what we consume in all areas of our life. So if we're engaged in activities that are against religious principles, if we're eating meat, for example, if we're drinking, if we're engaged in illicit sex life, all of that affects our consciousness and how we make decisions. So right now, we see that there are highly intelligent people. We see cities, and we see motor cars, and we see technology. But now we're coming to understand that the result of that technology is killing us. EMFs are affecting us. The chemicals that are in all of the foods are affecting us. The chemicals in fertilizer that are poisoning Mother Earth are affecting us. These are decisions that have been made by people who are atheistic and in the mode of darkness. Is that how we want to make decisions for ourselves, for our families, for our world? And therefore we're encouraging everyone who is listening, please begin to receive these teachings. Begin to learn about what it means to make decisions from that place of goodness, because that is actually natural for us as human beings. Goodness. Our souls are eternally good and pure, and all the rest is artificial. They are coverings on our consciousness. So the science of God consciousness, the science of Krishna consciousness, and indeed it is a science, systematic science of application that will yield the most wonderful results. I'll tell you one story before we end. It's a true story. It happened a very long time ago when the Vedic culture was still in place, and those who were the ruling class, the Kshatriyas, were sent to study at the home of the spiritual master in the same place that those who were part of the mercantile community were sent to study, and the Brahminical community. So everyone studied together. And the idea of the Kshatriya or administrator class is that they would take advice from the Brahmins. And the Brahmins remained in the very simple standard of life. They weren't interested in material prosperity. And when they were gifted a donation for the work that they did, they would distribute it, where they would use it for the benefit of others. They were the teachers, and they were the healers. They were the astrologers and the palmists, the ones who guided people. So they always stayed in a very simple and pure place, and they could not be bought. But they would give their advice freely, and they would receive whatever donations they received. And they were the advisors of the Kshatriyas. Kshatriyas are the administrators. So if somebody's going to be an administrator, they're going to be in the mode of passion, right? And how are they going to make decisions? Will they always be thought out well? No, it's not their nature. But we need their nature to be in that position. But when that nature is complemented with the advice of the Brahmins, then that made for a wonderful combination, which allowed for people to be protected under spiritually guided leaders, which is what we need now. So in this particular story, the teacher could see that this young boy who was going to be an administrator did not have respect for the Brahmins. And so he devised a test, and he gave his young Brahmin student and his young Kshatriya student a service to do. He said, I'm going to give you this amount of currency, money, and I want you to fill a room completely. That was it. So the Kshatriya immediately looked at the money. It was very little. How am I going to fill a room? He decided that he could fill the room with garbage because that doesn't cost much. And so he was working so hard to fill that room, top to bottom, with garbage. And he was looking at the Brahmin boy who seemed very peaceful. He was walking to the market, carrying his bag on his shoulder, cloth bag. He didn't seem to be disturbed. He wasn't passionate about having to fill the room. And immediately the young Kshatriya boy was thinking, just see, he's lazy. I've always said these Brahmins are lazy, and he is lazy. So, again, very disrespectful in his mind. So the teacher, at the appointed time, came first to the Kshatriya boy and said, so, my dear boy, have you fulfilled the task that I've asked you to do? Oh, he was so proud. Yes, Guru Maharaj, I have fulfilled it. Let me see. And when he opened the door, garbage fell upon his teacher. His teacher stood back. He was so shocked, looking down. What is this? He said, you? Well, my dear teacher, you asked me to fill the room. I have done exactly the task that you have asked. Teacher said, all right, fine. Come now, let us go see my other student. And they went there, and they were greeted with very pleasing words. Please come in. Please sit down. So glad that you have come. Immediately they were offered some nice fruits, respectfully and lovingly. And then the young Brahmin boy lit a stick of incense. And that was it. And the young Kshatriya boy was fuming. What is this? What is this? I can see that already that you're favoring again your student, again this Brahmin boy. Why are you favoring him? I have completed the task as you have asked. And what has he done? And the teacher said, well, he greeted us with very loving words that filled our hearts. He offered us food that filled our stomachs. And then he lit incense. And the fragrance of this incense has gone all over the room. And the young Kshatriya boy hung his head. And in that moment, he realized how important purified intelligence is, and how he, who would one day be an administrator, would take advantage of the advice of the Brahmins. So I leave you with this story. Thank you so much for listening. Hare Krishna. Please do take advantage of all the wonderful resources on our websites, the links which you will see below. Thank you.